On. Okay, so let's see, we're on 47, 46 feet. Okay. The last thing we were talking about was the Gemara had a question of Rabbi Shimon, right? Because if Shimon says that we have quoted, Rabbi Shimon says that when the kafsa, when the fire goes out, then you can't use the fire. Then you can't use the. Then it's permitted, right? Morning. It's not muksa anymore. Morning, Mark.
Morning, Rabbi.
So what we said yesterday or Friday, the Gemara challenged the statement regarding Rav Shimon's opinion. The Gemara wanted to say that Rav Shimon says that you could drag a bed, or drag a chair, or drag a couch on Shabbat, the dirt floor, as long as you don't tend to make the groove. The Gemara had a question: why is that different than moving a oil lamp on Shabbat? Right, oil lamp on Shabbat, he does not allow you to move when it's on, even though it's not inevitable. You don't know for sure that that the fire is going to go out while you're moving it. There's no definite violation. And if Shimon holds, as long as you don't have a mind to do the act of the malacha, you're not intending, and it's not definite that it's going to happen, then you're allowed to do that on Shabbat. So why is it that you can't move the lamp while it's on? So the Gemara wanted to suggest, because since there's a possibility, the rabbi made a defense that since when you move a lamp when it's on, there's a possibility that you could come to a biblical violation. How would that happen if you would actually intend to extinguish the fire? So something that has the ability to lead to a biblical prohibition, the rabbis made a fence that you can't move it while it's on because it has that potential of biblical violation. However, when it comes to dragging the bed or the couch on a dirt floor outside, where it can never lead to a biblical, that act cannot be an act of biblical violation, because that act is not the normal way of making a groove, softening the ground. Therefore, the rabbis did not make any rabbinic fence.
But they're both, Rabbi, they're both biblical violations. One is, the difference between them is one is not the common way to plow, and the other one is the common way to put out a light.
Right. And therefore, but being that this act of dragging the bed, this act cannot be a biblical violation, because this is the non-normal way of plowing. So therefore, the rabbis did not need to make a fence when you're doing that act, when you're not intending to make the groove. That correct, Mark? That this act, but however, the act of extinguishing, the act of moving a fire when the fire is on, that act has that same act. You intend to, if you intend to, by doing that act, you intend to take out the fire. That would be if let's say to make the wick a better wick, that would be a biblical. That act has that biblical abilities. But the Gemara's question was by the case of a guy selling shatnez, because the guy selling shatnez, we say if he doesn't intend to have benefit, this act of putting on the clothing, putting on the wool and linen stitched together, is permitted. The Gemara says that's the contrary of Shimon, as long as you're not intending with that act You're not intending to have benefit. You're not intending to benefit from the warmth of the clothing. But it has potential if you would have intention to benefit from the warmth of the clothing, that it has potential to have a biblical violation. And yet, Rav Shimon says he's not concerned. Says you could wear the shatnez to model it, since you don't have intention to benefit from the clothing. So
So
the Gemara,
I don't like a little bit. I'm struggling with it because you keep saying the three cases. The most important thing is intention. So you're not breaking Doraita because you're not intending to benefit from the Shanid. You're not intending to plow. And the other one with the light, now you're saying it's not really about intending. You're not intending to cause the wick, or you might be intending to improve the wick. Or you might be, I could say, you might be intending to plow a place where I could put the seeds in. And oh, by the way, I did it with the bed. And look at the benefit I get. I could put seeds here now because I made a groove in the dirt. Or I got warm when I modeled my sweater or my jacket. I'm warmer now. So it could be that you benefit from all three of them. The only thing that I think is different of the candle is not about the intention. It's about the way you could put out a wick is to shake it. The way you plow the land is not to drag a bed. And the way you would wear shatnez is not to model it, but it was actually be to go out and keep it on. So I don't know that we keep saying intention, but I think it's more about the commonality of how you do it.
okay, but what the Gemara had suggested, right? The Gemara, you want to make it but the Gemara, what the Gemara is doing at this point is knocking out the distinction that the Gemara said before. The Gemara said the distinction was between the case of the fire, that I can't move the oil lamp while it's on, and the case of the groove it's all about whether it could lead to a biblical, this type of act, could it be done in a way that would be a biblical violation?
So
That's what the Gemara.
I think plowing, moving the bed could be, if you want to say intention, it becomes a biblical act.
Again, but Mark, we're saying the Gemara wanted to say that this case of moving the bed on Shabbat can never be, this act of moving a bed on Shabbat can never be the biblical violation of making a groove, of plowing. Never. That's what the Gemara
Why?
wanted to say.
Why?
Because this act of moving a bed inherently is not the normal. There's no way that this will be. It's not the normal way of making a
So
groove.
that's the thing then, not the intention. That's the thing. You followed right into what I was saying. If it's not the real way, but with the candle, it is the real way. And with the
Right.
shatnez, wearing it as the modeling it is not the real way. It's just happenstance. It's like just, you're doing it for an ulterior motive, not the real motive. I'm creating the groove in the ground, not for the real groove in the ground to put seeds in. I'm moving the ground just because, it happened to happen. So it can't be biblical. The other one can't be biblical. The fire, that's the way I put it out. So it's not about intention.
But the question is, and you're saying when you model the coat, why we allowed to model the coat? Again, I'm putting, when I'm moving the fire, I'm not intending when I move the fire, when I'm moving the oil, I am not intending to put it out, correct? When I'm modeling the coat, I'm not intending to enjoy the warmth of the shotnets.
Right.
I'm not.
When you move the bed, not intending to
Not I'm
plow.
intending to make the groove. So all
So
three cases,
intention, right.
I'm not intending. So why are we being more strict by the oil lamp? What's happening by the oil lamp that we're saying I'm not intending to have the fire out? It's not definite that the fire is going to go out. Why are we strict?
There's two reasons I think. One is you could be you I think the real reason is because that's how you put the lamp out in reality.
But you're not
If
putting it.
you want,
You're not intending to put the lamp out.
but it
I'm
looks
not
like
intending.
that's the way that. But if I shake it and it goes, that's the way you do it, and that was said before. As far as benefiting it from it, all of them could be that you benefit from it. All of them. The wick, you could benefit from it because the wick gets improved. Okay, so the ground gets plowed. Okay, so do you get warmer when you put the coat? So all of them could be that you get benefit. All three of them. Why are you saying this one, the benefit is what drives it?
So, do you have a clear distinction why the oil lamp were more strict than the other two? You have clarity in that according to your understanding?
According to my understanding, I think the reason is because the commonality of how you do it. You don't plow land with a bed, and you don't model shot nets to get benefit. Both of those are not better. You don't move the candle, get benefit. But it's all about, to me, the commonality of how we do things.
Right. So you're saying that the Gemara's question from Shatnez, right? That's what you want to say, that the Shatnez is is also the reason why, because that's not the normal way of wearing the clothing. That's what you wanted to say.
Right.
Similar to
Exactly.
the ground. That's not the normal way of making a. Let me ask you a question. It's not the normal way, and therefore the rabbis don't make any say that there's no decree of protection from the violation, since that's not the normal way. Normal way of wearing is for wearing, not for modeling. That's what you want. That's what Mark wants to say.
Exactly.
Um, and that should be enough of a reason why not to. But the Gemara had said a different reason, right? So the Gemara said on what the Gemara said. The Gemara had said that distinction is whether it's all about whether it has the ability to come morning to become a biblical violation. That was the Gemara's. Now you want to say there's some other factor, whether it could become a biblical violation is not the issue. It's not the thing.
They all could become biblical.
But you're saying what's the norm? Okay, but that's not what the Gemara made the distinction. Mark, your distinction is not what the Gemara, meaning the Gemara was challenging the distinction that was on the books. Meaning the distinction that was on the books, meaning the rabbi said 46b. The rabbi said the distinction between the oil lamp and dragging the bed is all about the ability to come to, does it have the ability to come to a biblical violation when you intend to make that groove or not? Man, that's what the Gemara said the difference was. To that, the Gemara has a right to question it from the Shatnez story. Because if you're telling me that the distinction between these two cases is all about does it have ability to come to a deraita or not, so now the guy wearing modeling the Shatnez has ability to come to a deraita. Because if he has intention to enjoy, when he's modeling the coat, he's wearing it for the intention to protect him from the sun, protect him from the rain, that would be a biblical violation.
So that means intention.
That means intention.
So if I move the bed
With the intent, yes.
with the intention to make a groove so I can
You will
put
not
seeds in
you will
there,
not have biblical violation. Right?
even if you intended
Even if you intend, yes, no biblical. Why not?
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
why not? Why not?
Why?
What? Because
Because
that's not the way to do it. It's not the way.
So Shotness is not the normal way.
So very good. Even if
But the candle is the
so
normal way.
good, the answer, Mark, is the fact that shotness it's not the normal way of wearing a garment by modeling it, but it's a not. But it nevertheless, it doesn't have this. The law of not the normal way. Let's say is a Shabbat law. It will not. It will. The fact that modeling is not the normal way of wearing shotness does not take away from the biblical violation. How do you like that?
So this doesn't. The idea of like doing things not the normal way, saying it doesn't apply.
It wasn't applied to shotness.
What?
It's just a Shabbat.
I mean, it's a Shabbat, but Shabbat has a special law that he has to have machshava, a certain type of mindset when you're doing the malacha. And but when it comes to let's say the laws of shatnez, even if it's not the usual way, if I'm intending to have benefit, it would seem to me, unless okay. See, first of all, the question would be. First of all, we have to see if this distinction is correct, what I'm saying. That when it comes to Shabbat, we all know it has to be the normal way. But the Torah talks about lasod, to have machshava, having certain mindset and intention to do the malacha, to do it in a certain fashion. When it comes to other things, it might not have that asaf, that point. And even if and also, my question to you, Mark, is how do you know when you model something with the intention of enjoyment, of having benefit, wearing it for the importance of what clothing is for, to give me warmth, morning asaf. Who says that's not? How do you know that's not called a normal way? Maybe that's also called the normal way when you're modeling something. You're outside. You're modeling something.
I'm not. My purpose of modeling it is not to wear it for my purpose of benefit.
No, but if you're modeling, if you're modeling it, and I have a dual fine. But if I have that mindset, who says that's not called? How do you know that that's not
Okay,
called?
so who says when I drag the bed? I'm not saying.
Because that's no. That's true. You could have a mind, no problem. But there's no that's no way in the world is that ever called the normal way of making a groove.
So.
But this is called the normal way. People wear clothing to model, to have benefit. That I need to protect myself from the heat of the day. So I don't see that it's
primary, secondary.
But it's not the same distance. I think the bed.
The bed is totally
way different.
right.
Yeah, like if you look at it in a binary.
Put it on. That's the way you put clothes on.
Yeah, like
And you're having a mind if you have a mind benefit to have warmth. That's what the whole purpose of clothing is, for warmth.
it's
Okay.
all more, everything with clothes is more ambiguous. Is that the reason?
No. But he's saying the Gemara till now wants to say.
Like clothing, modeling it is closer to wearing than dragging a bed is to plow.
And the Gemara goes right, and the Gemara goes on record when says when you have intention.
Secondary. Secondary.
Okay, but nevertheless, the Gemara says if the seller would have intention to have benefit from the clothing, there would be a biblical violation. One here, there would be. In contrast to the guy making the groove with the bed, never. Exactly, like Adam said, it's far away. It's never on the field. It's never in the game. He's never in the game. This guy's in the game, and he could be getting a.
He has intention. Wow. I drag this here.
I'm
I'm
at
a 2 for 1.
No violation. No biblical violation. That's not the way people make a groove.
But if I do things that people don't do it, and I get the benefit of building or destroying
But that's not the normal way. That's not the normal way. I bang something. I bang a nail in, but not.
Set up something that's the normal way.
To make a fire in not the normal way,
Okay.
that would not be a biblical violation. It would be a rabbinic violation, right? It'd be a rabbinic violation.
How would you do it?
I go like this. I go like this, and I put up my hand, and boom, the fire goes on. Magic, and light goes on. If I go ahead and I put on, that's not the normal way of putting on.
Gas.
When you hit it.
Yeah, here we are. That's not the normal way of doing the. But that's not the way. It's not the normal way of doing it.
That is. But if this applies to anything not Shabbat, it could be taken to an insane place. Like imagine you could come up with anything you're not supposed to do. Say you're just doing it in a not normal way.
Right, okay, so first of all, we have to check that law is a law by Shabbat. Does it apply to other? Again, even by Shabbat, it's only the only thing it gains. It's not a biblical violation, but it's a rabbinical problem. No one says, "Okay, on Shabbat, I can just use my elbow." No, you can't do that. We gotta. No one says you could do that. Now,
So during the week, what we landed with on this whole thing is,
yes,
because Shabbos is not a Shabbat issue.
right, it's not a Shabbat issue.
So when you talk about not the normal way,
First of all, we don't know that it would apply to that loophole, so to speak, might be a Shabbat law, and
that wouldn't apply, Shay.
and it wouldn't apply to Shabbat. And I'm questioning, even if we would say that it would apply to Shabbat as well, if we would say that, I'm not buying that this is not called the normal way, because the dual mindset might be normal for people to have that dual mindset, to have, when I model in clothing, to have both the modeling aspect and having normal. When you model clothing, sometimes it's normal to have the benefit of the clothing as well. That's the thing we want to suggest. So what is the Gemara? The Gemara moves away from this. The Gemara wants to, therefore the rabbi says you got to say something different. So this was the Gemara's all the way at the bottom now. El Amar Rava. El Amar, now have to be 3. El Amar Rava. Now we're turning now I'm going to turn the page to 47a. So Rava says a different. It goes away from what the Gemara's distinction was before, and he says the following. Because that was Rav Yosef, so he knocks out, so to speak, Rav Yosef's understanding of the distinction, and now Rava comes up with a new idea. Hanach l'ner, Eddie, we're on 47a1. Hanach l'ner, Reb Shimon is going to agree that you can't move the oil lamp, and why while it's on, and what's the reason? And it's not because you don't have to say because of the concern that while moving it, you're going to take out the fire, right? That was what the Gemara wanted to suggest until now. If you move it when it's on, you might take out the fire. There's a difference. There's the mukseh issue. A different issue with mukseh is that the oil lamp is containing, the lamp holds the wick, holds the oil, and therefore the oil lamp is a foundation, is a support, is a basis for the mukseh. What's the fire itself is mukseh. You can't move the fire, and therefore hoyo v'nasis basis l'dava asur. It became a foundation. It's holding the muksa item, the fire. The flame is considered muksa, and the flame, you can't move the flame on Shabbat, and the flame cannot exist without something holding the flame. So what's holding the flame, like water, coffee can't be in that cup. You can't have coffee without the cup. Without the cup, you have no coffee in the cup. So the cup is supporting the coffee. So the oil lamp is supporting the flame, and therefore, and the oil, and therefore he admits when you're supporting something, the item that supports the item has a status like the item that you support, because the cup becomes inconsequential, so to speak. It doesn't have its own life. If it's supporting the mukseh, it has the status of the mukseh, just like when you have a food, you have an ikur and a tafel, you have a main food, and on top of the food, you put on a cracker, you put some cream cheese on a cracker. You don't have to say there it's you have to say a shahakol on the cream cheese because the cream cheese becomes just secondary to the cracker. So here the cracker's on the bottom and the cream cheese on top. But here the item that's holding the item becomes part of that item, has the same status as that item. That's why Rav Shimon says that you can't move the lamp. Okay, so not because you're going to take out the fire, meaning to say now the chidush of the Gemara is moving a lamp.
But once the flame's out, it's holding the oil. There's still oil in the base in the candy.
Right,
He holds, you can move it.
right, because he holds the idea of basis only applies when the item that it's supporting is still here in the world. If Shimon has that leniency, he makes a distinction. We don't hold that way. We hold that once when Bein Hashmashot during twilight it was off limits, it's off limits the whole Shabbat. If it was muktzeh, he holds no. He only has to be throughout, but as long only when it's on, it's a problem. Once it goes out, Rav Shimon says you're good. So that's the explanation why Rav Shimon says you cannot move the lamp, oil lamp, while it's on, not because you might take out the fire, not because the fire might go out when you're moving it. That's not his problem. He has no problem. He says you can move the bed. He's not afraid you're going to make. He's not as long as it's not definite. Moving the bed is not a problem because even though you might make a groove, you're not intending to make a groove, and it's not definite. Wearing shatnez is not a problem. You're not intending to wear the shatnez. It's not definite. But moving the lit oil lamp is another that wouldn't be the problem.
Putting it out's not the problem.
The fact that it might go out would not be the problem.
The flame is the mukseh item.
The flame is the mukseh, and once the flame is mukseh, what holds the mukseh has the same status of the mukseh. Therefore, the lamp, the cup that holds the flame, has the status of the flame. Just like you can't move a flame, on Shabbat. Well, it would be mukseh. If Shimon would agree that's mukseh with a flame.
How did the bed even get into this conversation? Bed's not mukseh.
Right. The bed got into the conversation was we found that what's the distinction? Why does he allow you to move a bed on Shabbat without intending to make a groove, but he doesn't allow you to move the oil lamp when you're not. Right. But the Gemara originally didn't. But the Gemara originally was thinking that the issue with the lamp is not about mukseh.
No,
About putting out. That's what the Gemara thought the problem was.
Putting it out equals groove.
Right. Possibly make a groove or possibly fire going out. They weren't talking about mukseh. Right. They were thinking it's all about whether the act, the malacha, exactly. So that's why we're coming back to it, Mark. We'll come back to it. The perek it's almost over. The perek. We've been having a good ride. It's been a nice ride on the kosher ride over here, non-muktzeh ride. Okay, so now the Gemara. Now that we spoke about this idea about a container holding something will have the status of the item, so now the Gemara is going to bring something related to this matter. Amar Rav Zeira, Amar Rav Aser, Rav Yochanan, Amar Rav Chanina, Amar Rav Rumanas, a very real name found in the Gemara, Rumanas. He said the following: Li hit the Rebbe, the Taltel Machta Beifra. Rebbe, from Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, most probably, he permitted me to move a pan. Say it again. Like a pan, the pan that you burn frankincense for a nice smell, and you go ahead, and he allowed me to move it with its ashes that were contained in it. Now, the Gemara, understood at this point. We're talking about this pan has in it ashes that are mukseh. But what do you do with ashes? The Gemara later on is going to say maybe ashes has a purpose. Like you could put ashes on saliva. Let's say if it's wet, there's a spill. Like in butcher stores, they put sawdust, right? As a purpose. the Gemara at this point is thinking that we're talking about it has no purpose. The ashes, something it's garbage, right? What do you do with the ashes after barbecue? You use it if there's no use. So these ashes that are left over, and they're not, you don't have. You didn't prepare it to use for the purpose. Does have a purpose to use to cover up saliva. We said, but you didn't prepare it for that purpose. It's like a rock. We said a rock is mukseh. If you do something to prepare it, maybe we can remove it. You want to use the rock for certain purposes, then you can prepare it before Shabbat. But this is called mukseh. And Rebbe permitted you to go ahead and move this pan with the ashes. And we see, even though you're moving the ashes, so now the
Same thing. And the purpose, I said, okay, I'm gonna use these ashes to cover up this, mess
So-
on the floor, like this wet.
right, it should be good enough, but then it's not mukseh. You prepared it before Shabbat. But here,
That's Rabbi Yehuda versus Shimon. Clearly, Rabbi Yehuda would say, you're not.
what would Rabbi Yehuda say about a rock that you prepared before Shabbat? How do you know, Mark, that he would not, that Rabbi Yehuda, how do you know he wouldn't allow when you made it into some purposeful thing before Shabbat? I don't know that we had on record that Rabbi Yehuda would say it would be a problem.
Going through, it has to be before Shabbat.
Right, but meaning on Shabbat itself, Rav Shimon would say most probably,
Rabbi Yehuda's been a Hashem.
right. But if it wasn't prepared by Shabbat, then you're right. Then you'd be correct. But if we prepared it before Shabbat, could be the same way by a rock designated. Right. So this is going to be my sawdust. Right. But here, the Gemara at this point is understanding he did not designate it, and now we're going to get into that, and yet he said you can move the pan with this with the ashes in it, which you should say, why don't we say that the pan is supporting the ashes? So that's what, like we said, like the oil, right? Exactly.
There's no fire in the pan.
There's no fire in the pan, exactly. But there's the ashes. So why shouldn't the ashes being a muksa item? Why shouldn't the pan that's supporting the muksa? Why shouldn't it have the same status of the muksa?
It has exact same sense, the candle is at.
But we said
Exact.
before, we said before that you can't, if the muksa item is there,
Flame,
the flame, you can't move the lamp.
good.
The muksa item is the ashes,
I think
and
we-
yet he allowed him to move the pan that contained the ashes. So how could you move the pan that contained the muksa? The same way you said you identified the flame as muksa, the ashes are
The
muksa.
oil's not.
The oil, so let's understand the oil. While it's on,
Different status. When it's off.
when it's all, according to Shimon, it's not muksa. Right. Correct. Rav Shimon, when the oil is out, when the fire is out, the oil is not muksa according to Rabbi Shimon. But here, this
According to
Rabbi Yehuda- according to Rabbi Yehuda, the oil would be muksa. After because when Bein Hashmashot, because Bein Hashmashot was muksa. So now remember, we lined up.
Wait a minute. Before Shabbat, the coal and the incense is burning.
This went out before. Okay, now the question is: was this on? Now the question is: was this on?
Exactly.
Was this on Bein Hashmashot or not? Right.
That's exact.
Okay. Right. So let's say
It went out during Shabbat, and it was on before Shabbat. So it's like.
right, but then
If it went out before started,
right.
then it's different because we're saying the ashes are mukseh, olive oil is not mukseh. Everybody would agree, just a little olive oil in and of itself.
And it's up. Right. But
Not lit candle.
right. Correct. So we have
Oil in the candle is not mukseh.
right.
Ashes in the candle is.
Right. So now the Gemara did this detail of whether it was on or not when Shabbat came. So we have to see at the moment. We don't have info on that yet. We'll see. Rashi, I don't know if Rashi says anything.
Can read too.
So 1 second. But let's understand who are the rabbis here in this statement. This is Rabbi Yochanan, right? Remember, Rabbi Yochanan lined up with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan does not hold like Rabbi Shimon. He's more strict regarding mukseh, right? So for sure, so according to him, if it was on when Shabbat came, it should be mukseh the whole Shabbat. Right, the ashes, right. And the pan should be mukseh the whole Shabbat. The pan was on now. So let's see what the Gemara says. Amalei Rav Zera Rav Asi. Rav Zera says to Rav Asi, Mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan say this leniency that you're allowed to go ahead and move the pan with the muksa item that's contained inside? And the logic would be because I'm moving the non-muksa item. The muksa item is not being moved directly, and he's allowing me to do that. But Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Notel Adam beno, ve'even biyodo. A person could pick up his child, and the child has a stone in the hand of the child. Now, if the child has a stone in his hand, the stone we say is mukseh. And the Gemara later on is going to say we're talking about a child who's so attached to his dad that if the father doesn't take him, the child will be will get sick, a very extreme case. And the rabbis allowed this this movement of mukseh, of picking up the kid with the stone, because of the concern of the kid getting sick. So we say the child, the parent, the father can take the child with the stone in his hand. Oh, kalkala ve'even b'tocha. If the child has a basket and there's a stone in the basket, we say they could go ahead and pick up the basket, and even though the stone is going to be moving through the pick of the basket, pick up the basket directly, adult could. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara said, Rabbi Yochanan says that's only if the basket had fruit in addition to the stone. But if you just had a stone, you can't pick up the basket. So how can you move the pan with the ashes? Nothing in it. That's the Gemara's question. We'll see tomorrow for the answer. Have a great day, everybody. Asaf, have a great day. NYU did not have enough people for the minyan this morning, so the semester